the system is. I just rebooted the system. It's taking a minute. Okay. So yesterday we have seen how to retrieve the data from simple tables, and whenever we have written a query, so it used to retrieve all the rows from the table, and we couldn't restrict the data. Suppose, let's say, when you write a query saying that select or whatever the columns from your table, then it will retrieve you all the records which are available in the table. And if you want to restrict only the particular department table or particular job table, or if you want to retrieve only the employees who are belongs to department number 90, or if you want to retrieve only the employees who belongs to particular job ID. So all these things then will go for restricting of the data. So how do you restrict the data, or yeah, I think there is some glitch actually. I was not able to something. Okay. So whenever you want to restrict the data from the query, then we are going to use a where clause. So where clause will help you to restrict the data, or it will help you to filter the data, or it will help you to limit the data, whatever you're retrieving it from. So we'll see now in this chapter how to use a where clause of the query and how to write the multiple conditions in the where clause by using a logical operators, and how can we, you know, how can we order the data also. So those things we'll see in this chapter. So it's taking a little time here, so we have to be a little patient. 1 second. I would have so SQL developer is a little big file, and you just have to open it a little. Okay, let me just try and show you the execution from here for some time till the SQL developer opens. So this may not be the better UI to view the data, but let's try and see how can we write the restricted queries here.
So, Karthik?
Yes.
This is Shailaja. Now, this window that's up on the screen, is that through DB2?
No, it is not a DB2. We are connecting to only Oracle database here. We don't have any DB2 database installed. But this is just another environment to connect to the Oracle, that's it. This is called as an SQL Plus environment. So I'm just actually connecting from command prompt to database. So SQL Plus utility will help you to connect to the Oracle data.
Oh, okay.
Then connect to it. See here, if you see Oracle all rights reserved, which means this is an Oracle database, not your DB2. So Oracle database 11G Enterprise Edition release. This one. This is a database which we are connecting.
Okay. Thank you.
So suppose, let's say, let me just connect to my SQL developer now. And till yesterday, as I said, like we have returned the queries which will retrieve the data from all your tables. And if you'd like to retrieve only the specific set of data within the table, then we'll go for a where clause of the query. So where clause will come after always the from clause of the query. Suppose the basic query what we have written yesterday. So whenever you want to retrieve the last name, salary, and then the employee ID from, let's say you want to have an employees table. So try and execute. So this will give you the list of employees and their salary. But if you see, it has retrieved you all the records which are available in the employees table. But suppose, let's say, if I want to fetch only the records who belongs to a particular department. I don't want to retrieve all the employees. I want to retrieve only the employees who belongs to department ID 90. So how can we do that? That is by using a where clause. So restricting of the data. So how to use a where clause? Let's say I want to retrieve only the employees who belongs to department ID 90. So I'll write the condition saying that department ID equal to 90. So this will give me only the employees who are assigned to the department number 90 and only 3. See, out of a previous query has given you all the records which are available in the employees table, but this query has given you only the records which are available in the department number 90. And similarly, suppose, let's say, if you would like to retrieve the employees whose salary is greater than 10,000. So I want to retrieve only the employees whose salary is greater than 10,000. Here also you can write the condition saying that where salary is greater than 10,000. So when you try and execute, this will give you the records, this will give you the data whose salary is more than 10,000 in a company. So likewise, you can write the where clause of the query. Now, we are writing only one condition, so based on that condition, it is returning the data. So few things we have to remember here is that, so whatever the strings that you enclose in the characters, that is a case sensitive. And if you are enclosing the date within the characters, that is a format sensitive. Suppose, let's say, what I'm trying to say, when I say the character data is a case sensitive, so if you have a data which is stored in the last name of the employee, which is stored as a KING in the table, and if you just want to try to compare with something like KING, which is K in the lowercase, both are not same. So if you compare this, this condition will be evaluated to false. So it is a case sensitive. So if you are comparing the data, so KING equal to capital KING, this condition will be evaluated to true. So suppose, let's say if I want to retrieve all the employees whose last name is King, then I need to give either the format of I need to give the case sensitivity of the last name column, how it is actually stored in the database. If I'm giving some other column, let's say I'm giving all in the lowercase or all in the uppercase, but in the database it is stored as capital KING. So when I try and execute it, because that condition will be evaluated to false, it will not retrieve any records because this is not matching. It is a case sensitive. So suppose, let's say if I try and use this in the database, also we have a records which is stored something like this. So when I try and execute, it will give you the records whose last name is King because it is a case sensitive. And similarly, it is a format sensitive as well. So when you are using the date information, calendar date, generally we represent the date in this format, dd-mon-yy format. Suppose if you want to represent the today's date, so how do you represent according to IST? So 22 August 2014. So dd-mon is a short form of the month, and then YY, that's how you'll initiate, that's how you provide the date format. So let's try and see what are all the different comparison operators and how can we use it. These are all the different comparison operators. These things are pretty simple. Equal to, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, all these not equal to, these are all the different comparison operators. Suppose, let's say you want to identify all the employees whose salary is less than or equal to 10,000 or something like that. So you can always write the similar type of a query. So I can write the condition saying that select last name, salary, and the department ID. Let's say you want to have even the job ID. So department ID where salary is less than 5,000 or anything less than or equal to 5,000, we can use this condition. Similarly, if you want to use a greater than or equal to, so you can use a greater than or equal to symbol. Now this will give you all the employees who are earning the salary less than or equal to 5,000. So likewise, we can write. So similarly, if you want to identify the employees who are IT programmers, so here job ID will tell you that whether the employee is IT programmer or whether the employee is a clerk, president, or something. Suppose if you want to know all the employees whose job ID is a IT programmer. So IT programmer job designation is being stored something like this, IT_PROG. So this is a job ID. Since I know how the job ID is being stored for this, so I'm able to retrieve it. So when you try and observe the data in the employee table, you'll come to know what is the job ID of IT programmers, what is the job ID of clerks, what is the job ID of sales representatives and all. And similarly, we can also use a not equal to operator. Not equal to operator, how it works. So not equal to operator, either you can use this or you can use this operator to retrieve the data. So let's say I want to retrieve all the employees who are not the sales representatives. I want to retrieve all of them, but not the sales representatives. So how would you write it? Where job ID. So sales representative job ID is nothing but your SA_REP, so which is in the uppercase because all the job IDs are stored in the uppercase. That's why I'm passing the uppercase input to this. So when you try and retrieve, it will give you all the employees. Now you go and check, you'll not find sales representatives anymore in this because you're trying to retrieve all the employees other than sales reps. So this will give you the data. So that's how you'll retrieve this information, which is not equal to operator. Suppose whenever you want to compare the range of values, which means, so let's say you want to retrieve the employees whose salary is between 5,000 and 10,000. So that to compare that, if you want to compare the range of values, then we'll use a between and an operator. So where salary is between 5,000 and 10,000. So now the question is that, so does it gives me the employees who are earning the salary as 5,000 and who are earning the salary as 11,000. So whether these limits are inclusive, or it will give me the records from 5,001 to 10,999. So let's try and check. So whenever you use a between and and clause, upper limit and lower limit are inclusive, in the sense it will give you the employees who are earning the salary 5,000, as well as it will also give you the employees who are earning the salary as 11,000. So likewise it works. So if you try and retrieve, this is how the upper limit and lower limit, whatever you have, that is being included in the your between and AND operator. It will give you employees who are earning 5,000. It will give you employees who are earning 11,000 salary here. So that's how the between and AND operator works. So if you want to talk about, let's say, whatever the first query that we have written, which it says that it will give you the employees who belongs to the department number 90. Suppose, let's say you have a scenario. Now you want to retrieve employees who belongs to department number 90 as well as 10 and 20. I want to compare the multiple values, not only a single value. I want to retrieve the employees who belongs to department number 90, 10 and 20. So how can I match the list of values? So if you are using equal to, you can compare only one value. So to compare the list of values, so what we do is, so we will use a in operator. In operator is used to compare the multiple values. So how would I write the query? So similar kind of a query you can write it. So let's say this is your simple query where you're comparing one value. So how would you compare this result? So where department ID in, so you have the data now, let's say 90, 10 and then the 20. So if you want to compare the multiple values, each value will be separated by comma, 90, 10 and 20. Now if I try and execute, it will give me all the employees who belongs to 10, 20 and then 90. That's how it retrieves the data. And suppose if you want to retrieve all the employees who are sales representatives and the IT programmers, I want to retrieve, otherwise I want to retrieve all the IT programmers and I want to retrieve all the sales managers and let's say the sales representatives as well. So how would you compare the character data multiple values? So when you are storing that, let's say I want even the job ID also along with this, just to determine whether I'm retrieving the correct result or not. So let's say you have even the job ID column which you are fetching. So job ID, where job ID in, so you have the values. So each of the individual value you have to store it in the, the single quotes, IT programmer, let's say sales manager, and then the sales representative. So all these things. So when you try and execute, this will give you the list of employees who belongs to IT programmers and sales managers and sales representatives. Likewise, you can compare the multiple values using this in operator. In operator is used to match the list of values which are available. And the next one which we are going to understand is about the like operator. See, like operator is for a pattern matching. Suppose, let's say whenever you want to identify the employees whose name is starting with A, whose name is starting with B or ending with A. So whenever you want to find out the pattern within the, so it's just like a search operator where we'll actually put a wildcard characters and then search for a content. So whenever you want to match the pattern using the like operator, then we'll use it. So when you are using a like operator, you need to understand the two wildcard characters. One is a percentage, another is a underscore. Percentage is used to match the one or multiple characters, match the one or multiple characters, and underscore is used to match a single character. So whenever you want to match a single character, or if you want to skip the character, then we'll use a underscore. Suppose, let's say I want to identify all the employees whose name is starting with A, whose last name is starting with A. Basically, you want to identify all the employees whose last name is starting with A. Then you can write the query here saying select last name, salary, department ID, and all these things, where, so last name like, let's say I want to understand a percentage. So percentage means here, which helps you to retrieve the employees who are starting with A. So percentage is like matching one or more characters, whether if it has one character, single character, or more than one character after A, it will try to match it. So try and execute. So there are 4 employees whose last name is starting with A. So you have here this after A you have 3 characters, here 3 characters, is more than 3 characters, here also more than 3 characters. So percentage means which matches one or multiple characters. Suppose, let's say if you want to identify the employees whose last name is ending with A. So I just want to match only the last character. I don't mind what are the previous characters it has. So if you want to understand that, now you can try and retrieve whose last name is ending with A. Then we'll try and use the query as like operator. So ending with A means, so percentage, it has to match multiple characters before, and then use percentage A. So try and execute this. So this will give you all the employees whose last name is ending with A. So percentage A. So that likewise you can start matching the data by using a percentage. And similarly, let's say if you want to understand whose last name second character is whose last name second character is A. I don't know, I don't want whatever may be the first character, but I want the employees whose last name second character is A. So how do you compare the second character here? So that is by using a underscore. So if you just want to skip one character, so now let's say use underscore, it can be anything. So it will skip the first character and tries to match the data from the second character. When you say A percentage, so try and execute this from here. So this will give you all the data whose last name second character is A. See, if you see, all these employees are having. So this underscore is used to match one character or skip the character. So you can call that also as a skipping of the data. So if you want to understand, let's say if you want to understand, compare the multiple characters also, you can understand. Let's say I want to understand the employees whose last name is starting with CA. So CA percentage. So you can also do this. So try and execute this. It will give you all the employees whose last name is starting with CA. So there are 3 employees whose last name is starting with CA, and likewise you can perform it. So here underscore is a wildcard character, one wildcard character, and percentage is a another wildcard character which we have to use for pattern matching. Suppose, let's say I want to search for all the employees. So if you see the job ID column, right? So job ID column contains a string something like SA underscore here. So if you want to look for a content which is SA underscore, but underscore is a wildcard character which will skip for me, but I want to include underscore also in my search criteria or my pattern matching criteria. So how can I do that? So whenever you have this kind of a scenario, then we have to use a escape. So what I'm trying to say here is that, so if you try and see the data in the job ID column, right? So job ID column contains the data like SA underscore REP, SA underscore manager, all these things. I want to search for a content whose job ID is starting with SA underscore. So how can I do that? So you can use a escape operator whenever you use it, where like So let's say which column you want to compare, job ID column, and you want to compare this thing. So let me just use SA underscore. So you just need to use this ampersand, not ampersand operator, backslash, which you can use, and then use a percentage. So if you use this, not here, sorry. If you use this, you can actually escape that character by using. So let me just escape that character. So when it is actually searching, whatever the next but one character is there, it will be ignored by your Oracle. It will not actually consider this underscore as a wildcard character. It will consider this as a character which is a part of your search criteria. Now see, it is able to search for all the employees whose job ID is starting with SA underscore. So I want to include in my search criteria underscore also in my search criteria. Then we have to use something like this whenever you are searching for a. So it is as simple as, let's say, in the last class we have seen how to search, how to add how to append the content which has the single quote in its content. So similar kind of a thing, whenever you want to search for an underscore character, then we will use we'll use a escape here and then do that. Yeah, so that's how you can see how search criteria works, or a pattern matching works in the Oracle using the SQL query or the like operator here, right? So that's how you'll use a like operator here, so which is used to match the character pattern. And there is another, we have another operator called as a null, is null operator. So this is important. So when you are writing is null, suppose let's say I want to understand the employees who do not have any departments. So what do you mean by a null? So we understand that whenever you are providing the data into your table, so if you're not providing a data for a particular column, that will be treated as a null. So I want to understand the employees who are not receiving the commission, in the sense whose commission is a null. So do remember, we cannot compare the null value with any other column. So it's just like arithmetic operator, you cannot even compare the null value. So let's try and see. Let's say I want to retrieve the last name, salary, and then you have a commission percentage, and you have some job ID as well from whatever this table name, that is your employees table, where I cannot use something like this. So this is fundamentally wrong. So commission percentage equal to null, because your Oracle cannot compare a null value to a particular null value. It cannot be done. So when you try and use, this will throw you the 0 records because it cannot match the data. So whenever you want to compare the null value, you always have to use is null operator. So if you try to use is null operator, now this will give you the employees who are not receiving the commission. In the sense, there is no commission which is defined for these employees, undefined value for these column. So always you have to use a is null operator to compare the null values, not the equal to null. Equal to null cannot be matched with the Oracle. So that is about your is null condition. Is null condition. So here we have seen the multiple operators here, less than, greater than, and similarly the like operator, between and all. But suppose let's say you have a requirement wherein you are retrieving the data from the employee whose department ID is equal to 90 or something, but I want to retrieve only the employees whose salary is greater than 10,000. Or let's say this, how can I see, I'm trying to explain you how can we add a multiple conditions here. Suppose this, if I say it where department ID is equal to 50, it will give me all the records whose department, whose department ID is 50. But if I have to retrieve all the employees whose department ID is 50 and salary is greater than 6,000, So there is an additional conditions which I want to keep it. So that you're going to achieve it by using a logical operators. So there are some logical operators which we use. I mean, 3 logical operators. One is and other is or, and the next one is your not operator. So and means both the conditions must be true or all the conditions must be true. So whatever the conditions that you write, all the conditions must be true, then only the AND operator will be evaluated to true. So if you talk about or operator, any one of the condition must be true. Any of the condition must be true in using this. And similarly the not operator, so not operator, it's like a negation. If the condition is true, it will return false. If the condition is false, it will return true. So true will become false, false will become true in case of this. Now let's try and write the query, similar kind of a query. So employees who belongs to department number 50 and salary is greater than 5,000 or 6,000. Let's say I'll write another condition where and salary is greater than or equal to 6,000. Now it will compare this condition as well as this condition. So try and retrieve the data. Now observe the difference between this alone, the data retrieval, if you do it along with this and if you do with sales. So now you're retrieving the records whose salary is even less than this. So now you try and execute. Now check it here. Department ID is 50. This condition is satisfied. And salary for all the employees is greater than or equal to 6,000. So this condition is also satisfied. And means both the conditions must be true, then only the AND operator, and means all the conditions. So suppose let's say here even you're writing still one more condition saying like you want to retrieve all the employees. Okay, how can I add another condition to it? Or let's say, yeah, otherwise what we can also say that, let's say out of all these employees, I need only the employees whose last name contains A in it, whose last name contains A. So how can I do that? So that I can match it again using the like operator. So what is the last name? So you can write last name like. So I will need only the employees who has A in their names. Who has A. So I can use %A %. If the last name contains A, then only it will return, or otherwise it will not return. So what I'm trying to say here, using a AND operator, you can, or whatever the operator, you can add more than 2 conditions. It is not that only 2 conditions you can add. Now see, this old man name has a A in it, and this name also has a A in it. So likewise, you can add a AND operator to add a multiple conditions to restrict the data in a SQL. So that's how you add it. Similarly, the OR operator. So what do you mean by OR? OR is nothing but any one of the conditions must be true. So if either of the conditions true or both the conditions are true, then also it will return a data. Suppose let's say you have a scenario wherein you want to retrieve all the employees whose department ID is equal to 90 or salary is greater than 11,000, something like this. So how this works? So when you try and use where department underscore ID is equal to 90 or the salary is greater than or equal to 11,000. So either it will compare the department ID or the salary, any one of them. So now try and use it. See, all these records are retrieved. Okay, in this scenario both are same. Otherwise we'll take the condition as less than or equal to 10,000, 11,000. Oh, there will be so many records. I'll just try and retrieve it where less than or equal to 5,000. So when you try and see, this record has been retrieved even though the salary is not less than or equal to 50, because the department ID is equal to 90, these records have been retrieved. On all these other records, if you see the department ID is not 90, but there is a condition which is being satisfied where salary is less than or equal to 5,000. So this record is retrieved. Or condition means any one of the conditions must be true, then it will retrieve you the data using that. So if you are using the combination of all the operators, Simon, if you don't mind, can you mute yourself? So if you're actually using a combination of operators, so how can I use a combination of both the operators? So and or both together, how it works. So before that, let's also understand how to use a not operator. So not operator is like, suppose let's say you want to retrieve all the employees who are not belongs to IT programmer or the sales representative. So how would I do that? So try and execute. Not means it will give you the false if the condition is true. So how can I write the condition where I want to retrieve all the employees who are not sales managers or otherwise. Okay, let's try and write this condition itself. It is simple. So job ID not in. I don't want the IT programmers, so I'll write the condition as IT programmers. And I don't want to retrieve the sales representatives, so try and add the sales representatives here. And if you just want to use a sales manager, so I don't want to retrieve them. And similarly, if you just want to add a multiple columns, so not in means it will give you all the employees who are not belongs to these job IDs. That's it. It's very simple. Not in, if use in, it will give only employees who are belongs to this in and not in operator. So now when you are using a combination of columns and or not, which condition will be evaluated first? So there is a precedence just like your arithmetic operators. So this is a precedence. First, not operator will be evaluated, then the AND operator, then OR operator. First arithmetic operators will be evaluated, then the concatenation operator, comparison operators, is null, is not null, not in between, not equal to. So this is a execution which happens. If you want to override any of these precedents, so you can always include that in the parenthesis to do that. So how would we determine, like how would we use the combination of these things? Suppose let's say you have a requirement, so concentrate here to understand how this condition will be evaluated. Let's say I have a scenario. I want to understand the employees who belongs to sales representatives or a president, and whose salary is greater than 15,000. I want to retrieve either sales representative or president whose salary is greater than whose salary is actually greater than 15,000. So how would you write the query? Let's say if I am retrieving the job ID also here, so job ID from employees, so where, so job ID is equal to sales representative, or, and this condition will give you job ID is equal to president. So what does it mean? Like when you write this query, it will give you if the job ID is sales representative or if the job ID is a president. But out of all these employees, I need only the employees who are earning the salary greater than 10,000, sorry 15,000. So when I write the condition saying that where salary is greater than 15,000, try and execute what will happen with the result. So you have so many employees here, and out of all these employees, I need only the employee whose salary is greater than 15,000. That means there is only one employee whose salary is greater than 15,000. Try and execute what happens here and what will be the result. So if you see, there are also other employees out of sales representatives presidents. It is retrieving that result, but this is a wrong result. Why? Why is it retrieving the employees who are earning the salary less than 15,000 also? So here you need to understand about the precedence of the operators. First, this condition is evaluated, and then next is the OR condition between this. So whenever you want to override the precedence of the operators, So then you need to enclose that in the parenthesis. So what are you trying to achieve here? I want both sales representatives and whose job ID is a precedent, out of which I need employees whose salary is this. So if since I'm including this in the parenthesis, first this condition will be evaluated, then it will give you all the employees who are more than that. So now it should retrieve only one record to me, not the multiple records. Because earlier what is happening is that because AND operator will be evaluated first this condition will be evaluated, then it will apply the OR clause based on the result of this statement. So likewise the data is retrieving. So whenever you want to override the precedence of the operators, always include that in a parenthesis so that this will be evaluated first, then followed by that value. So that's how you can use the where clause condition for using a logical operator without using a logical operator and the comparison operator. Always the where clause will come after the from clause. Okay. So anything you'd like to add here, or so that completes your where clause. We'll see how the order by clause works. Okay, quickly. So let me know if you have a questions here so far what we have discussed.
Hi Karthik, this is Amir.
Yeah, Amir. Go ahead.
Can you go over the escape? You mentioned one of the query escape. What are we trying to do? Escape the slash? I was confused in that query.
Okay. See, what is actually happening is that suppose, let's say you have a employee name which is being stored as something like this. Let's say your name itself. Let's say you have stored your email address, something like this. Let's say you have this one, and when you write it, I want to understand all the email addresses which are actually having the content as Amar underscore. So if you try and compare the condition, let's say if you try and write the condition something like, if you use this condition, what will happen? It will skip the character. It will skip this character which is there after this R, because underscore is a wildcard character. But I want to include this underscore also in my search criteria, because I want to look for all the employees who are having the underscore, or let's say who are having the underscore in their email. I don't want to consider this underscore as a wildcard character, but I want to consider this as a part of my string which I'm searching for. Let's say in the simple way, let's say if you want to search for all the employees who are having the underscore in their email address, if I say this underscore, it will skip the character and try to match the data. But I don't want this underscore to be skipped. Rather, I want to use that as part of my content. Then you need to use an escape. So you need to use that escape operator, so which will include this also in your search criteria. So if you try to use escape, escape %, so this will give escape this one. So it will not consider this underscore as a wildcard character. Rather, it will use that underscore as a part of the content which you are searching. So that is a use of escape operator. I'm not very sure here whether we have an email address with underscore. Otherwise, we can easily check that. Let me just try and retrieve the data quickly. So if you have something of that sort of a content, we can easily do that. I don't think we have such data. Yeah, there is no data, but otherwise, if you have such kind of a data,
So Karthik,
you can always. Yes.
So Karthik, now here the escape acts like as an underscore?
No, it will actually whatever the character that you kept after the slash, right? So it will not treat that as a wildcard character. It will escape that character. That's the use. It will not work like an underscore. Why we are actually including escape slash here? Whatever the character that is there after the slash, do not consider that character as part of this. So that's what that is the meaning of that. It doesn't mean that your slash your underscore will be replaced by slash here. It will just escape that character, whatever is there, which is included after that.
Thank you, Karthik.
So the next one is you need to understand about the order by clause. So how do we use order by clause, or how do we sort the data in the queries? See here, whenever you retrieve the result, the data is not sorted. Or if you want to sort the data in the ascending order or the descending order or in some other format, whatever is there, so you can always sort the data by using the order by clause. Order by clause will come always last in the query. So it will come at last in the query. So how would you order the data? So when you try and execute this, so let's say you can order the data based on the date columns, you can order the data based on the character columns, you can order the data based on the number columns. So using an order by clause, you can do that in the ascending order, or you can do that in the descending order. So if you want to do it in the ascending order or the descending order, both the ways you can do that. So when you try and execute this query, see the salary is being displayed not in the proper format. So I just want to sort the data based on the salary here. So I can use an order by clause. So when you use order by, let's say salary, so it will sort the data based in the salary in the ascending order. So by default, whenever you use an order by clause, it will sort the data in the ascending order. See here from 2100 to the maximum value. So what happens if you want to sort the data in the descending order? Then you have to keep that explicitly. In a sense, when you are writing a query, if you want to sort the data in the descending order, then you need to keep that in the statement. So descending order. So when you say order by salary descending, it will sort the salary in the descending order. Similarly, if you want to sort the data based on the varchar columns, suppose let's say I want to sort all the employees based on the last name. So how would it sort the data from A to the Z? So you want to sort in the ascending order. So just try and execute. So this will give you from 2800 to the maximum. So sorry, this one it has sorted based on the last name, so it will from A to Z. So whatever you have, all the values. So this is how it sorts it. And similarly, you can also use the date column to sort the data. So if you see, we have even the higher date column. Higher date column contains a date. So if you want to sort the data based on the date also, you can do that. So higher date. Let's say you want to sort the data in the ascending order or the descending order. So just try and use order by higher date in ascending or the descending order. So descending means it will use latest date as a maximum, and then this is the latest date. And if you see the old date, it will be somewhere around 1987. Okay, this is a minimum date, and that is the maximum date. So that's how it will do it. So you can also sort the data based upon the multiple columns also. It's not that only a single column we can use and sort the data. We can also use multiple columns. So how would I do that? So let me just use the column names. So I'm just trying to sort the data based on the department ID and the job ID. So how would it works? So when you sort the data based on the multiple columns, here one is a one is a numeric column and other is a job ID column. Job ID is a varchar column. Department ID, comma job ID. So when you are sorting the data based on multiple columns, first it will sort the data based on the department ID, then followed by the job ID. So try and execute. So first it will sort the data based on the department ID, means from 10 to the maximum number. See here 10, 20, 30. And within the department, if you have a multiple job IDs, see here in the 20 you have a multiple job IDs. Marketing manager is appearing first and followed by the marketing representative, because this job ID is also sorted in the ascending order. This job ID is also sorted in the ascending order here. So if you just want to see, so marketing manager and marketing representative, so 20, this one. So try and do this. So first it will sort the data. Suppose let's say, let me just try and give you how this order works. Let's say you have 10 and you have some ABC and 10 BCD and 10 DEF. You have a department something like this. Let's say you have 20 XYZ and you have another thing called as 20 FGH and 20 DEF. So how does it works when you sort the data? Based on the department ID and the job ID. First, it will sort the data based on the department ID. So you'll have 10, 3 columns, 10, 10, 20, 20, and then 20. So first it will sort the data based on, okay, let me just keep the data view here so that it will be easier for us to understand. So then out of all the 10s, what are all the values you have? ABC, BCD, and DEF. So it will also sort the data in the ascending order. First record will be ABC, and second record will be BCD, and third record will be DEF. So first it has sorted the data based on the department ID, and out of all the values which you have in the job ID, that will be sorted in the ascending order. So what will happen with 20 first DEF will come, then followed by FGH, and then followed by the XYZ. So first it will sort the data based on this and then this. So if you're trying to sort the data based on the department ID in the ascending order, I can also do the other way around, where job ID in the descending order. That is also possible. I mean, like if you do that, what will happen is that, so try and execute this query. So when you try and, so descending order, one is in the ascending, other is in the descending. So try and execute. So this will give you, see, department ID is being given. So earlier marketing manager was the first and then this one, but now this is in the descending order, marketing representative followed by the marketing manager. So if you see this result, what will happen? DEF followed by BCD and then ABC. This is the order which will come, and this one if you do XYZ, FCH, and then the DEF. So likewise, if you can also sort the data based on the multiple columns here in using it. So order by will use to sort the data, and you can also include the values alias columns also in the order by clause. Suppose let's say you are calculating the annual salary, and I want to calculate the salary based on the annual salary. So let's say you have something called as a 12, and I alias this as an annual salary. I can also use the alias name in the order by clause. Need not to be column name always. I can also use this order by annual salary. So try and execute, this will give you that. And similarly, suppose let's say if you want to order the data based on the column position, means order by 3. So if I say order by 3, 1, this is a second and this is a third. So it will sort the data based on the higher date column. So try and execute. This will sort the data now based on the higher date column. Check it. It is in the ascending order from minimum value to the maximum value. So you can also sort the data based on the column position, and that also can be defined using that. And that is about the sorting of the data, how to use order by clause for sorting the data in the ascending order and the descending order, right? So next thing is about the substitution of the variables. So I just need only 2 minutes of your time. And substitution of the variables is like, suppose let's say if you want to execute the same query for multiple times, then by passing the different inputs, then you can always enable the substitution operator here. Suppose let's say you have a query. So first initial query what you have written, let's say where department ID is equal to 90, and I want to execute this query for multiple times by just replacing the different department ID value. So how would I write the query in using it? Let me just give here, so call it as &1. Let's say &1. So when you give it as &1, what will happen is when you try and execute, it will prompt you to enter the value. So what value you want to enter? Suppose let's say if I pass 10, it will give me the employees who belongs to department number 10, When I execute it, will ask me again the value. It will give me the employees who belongs to department number 20, like that. So whatever you use ampersand at the runtime, it will prompt you to enter the value. So this substitution can happen either in your from clause or in your select list or in your where clause. Anywhere you can substitute this thing. So this is basically used more for a scripting of the data. This used for a scripting. Suppose, let's say you want to retrieve all the employees whose job ID is a sales representative. So, and I want to substitute the job ID at the runtime. So how would I do that? So complete where clause itself, you can substitute it. So where ampersand of where clause. Okay, it is not taking. Okay, let's try and execute. So it will ask you to enter the value for a where clause. So then you can write a query saying that where job ID is equal to sales representatives, because you want to enter that value within the single quotes. So now it will give you all. So you can substitute the value anytime. So what is the disadvantage with a single ampersand is that, suppose if you have used multiple queries, something like this, let's say employees, and wherever I have used ampersand where clause, it has to replace that ampersand where clause by whatever the input that I give there. So if I try and execute a multiple SQL statements at the same time, so how would you execute it? Let's say this is a 1 and this is a 1. So when I execute two SQL queries at the same time by using F5, so it will ask me to enter the value for multiple times. But if you use double ampersand, so where department ID is equal to 10, so if you want to execute this query and this one, so it will give you the employees who belongs to department number 10. So what is using the double ampersand is that, so when you see ampersand wherever it is being used, it will prompt you every time to select the data. It will prompt you to every time to enter the value for ampersand where. But what is the use of your double ampersand is that it will ask you to enter only one time. So you don't need to enter data for multiple times. It will ask you to enter only once. So now try and execute. It won't prompt me twice to enter the data. So just try and execute. Let's say if I want to, so if I want to write the condition, it will ask me only once. So that is a use of double ampersand. Let's say if I enter ampersand department ID is equal to 90, see, it has asked me only once. It has not prompted for this value. So when you use double ampersand, wherever you have used ampersand where, it will replace the same value across all the substitutions. It won't ask you to prompt every time to enter the data. So when you have a multiple substitutions, then it's better to use a double ampersand, not the single ampersand. This is more used for a scripting. Wherever you have to substitute the value within a script, that will be used. But for querying, we don't use any substitution. We'll directly substitute a single value and then always determine the data. So anyway, as part of this ampersand and double ampersand, which we have, that is the difference between the ampersand and the double ampersand. So that completes your chapter number 2. We'll send you the details today, and please keep the downloads ready, and probably we'll set up the tomorrow, because we're already completed 2 chapters. So this will be helpful for you to practice at the same time, and we'll share all the required materials, whatever is there, and you'll receive a mail today regarding all those. The admin team will send you all the details. Okay, thank you. Any questions before we wind up for today? Okay then, thank you. We'll just see. Yes.
Is the double ampersand and ampersand only in Oracle?
I'm not very sure. I think it's across the databases.
Okay.
But not very sure whether it will work with other databases or not.
Okay, I'll see, Google it and see whether it works across other databases.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Karthik.